Ian, what assumptions did you have about setting up your own practice that turned out to be incorrect?
Okay, well, I mean, I started coming up 10 years now, and I've now rebranded, but my initial assumptions right from the start were that if I got enough training, if I learned from the right people and became an expert, I always wanted to do well at everything I do, that the business would follow. And I just made the biggest assumption that it would grow by word of mouth, which it did to a degree, but very, very gradually. And then as time went on, I think I just relied more and more. So I spent more and more of my time just on the clinical element, training, getting the skill, becoming a key opinion leader, all that sort of stuff, but really neglecting the business side of things. And then realising there wasn't enough time in the day, to do everything you needed to do. And so even if I generated new patients, I didn't have the time to see them, or the clinic facilities to see them. So, it was coming in without any clear business plan, and I think just assuming the model that patients will follow. I think that, I've never run a business before. So it was actually when I rebranded and I wanted to start again with skin excellence clinics, I think that's when I had to make the changes really. Yeah,
absolutely, and look at the business as a business. So a big one there, who, like Ian, sort of in the beginning, has really got quite addicted to clinical training. I get it, you all love it, you love a good needle going in, but you're here today, you're at a business event, so well done, that's good, that's more than your competition are doing. But you've got to, I'll take a leaf out of Ian's book there, don't leave it until it's a few years down the line to really look at the business aspect. So thank you for sharing. What about marketing? Shirin, what are your top tips for maintaining patient loyalty? Because you guys have done really well at the clinic. Shirin's doing a great talk later. Is anyone coming to watch Shirin talk about how they've did 2 events and got 97,000 for hydrofacial? They've now got 2 machines running very profitably. But what are your top tips for maintaining loyalty, patient loyalty? It's a big one.
I mean, loyalty is a huge thing for us in our clinic. One thing, as you said earlier, make the patients feel valued. Have excellent customer service, make sure that ethos of looking after your patients runs through your entire team for a start. So that's where we began. It's more about looking after them, making them feel like they're part of our family as well. In addition to that, we do little things like we have a VIP program, so it's not even a huge amount to be on it, but if a client spends over a certain amount with us in a 12-month period, they automatically get enrolled. It's not something we actively advertise either, so all of a sudden they'll get a little goodie bag with some products in it.
Yeah, it's a nice surprise.
It's a surprise for them, and Brilliant. It's like, you've qualified for our VIP program, you are now going to be a member for the next 12 months, regardless of your future spend. And we give them treatments, and what we started doing in that treatment program is giving them things they haven't tried before. So they get to experience something they wouldn't necessarily have otherwise. Other things we do, we've got a list of everyone's birthdays that month, so they get a little card and box of chocolates, box of prosecco. Costs us about £6. For them, their face lights up, they absolutely love it, they feel completely valued.
Brilliant. Yeah, so there's a lot there. It's all about you guys, like we said a minute ago, you're in the business of feelings. Yeah, this is a very privileged position that you're in, to put your hands on people's faces and bodies, build that emotional connection, and people will remember how you made them feel. So £6 is nothing to make somebody feel really special. There's somebody doing a talk next door, her clinic, and I'm not saying do this because this is more than £6, but they send branded colour flowers to their clients, their VIPs on their birthdays. Isn't that lovely? So, thank you, Shirin, because I know what's really lovely is making it's a nice surprise for people, and who doesn't like surprises? Most of us like surprises. So, this is a good one. So, Jane's been in the industry a very long time, but if you had to start again today, if you had to do from the beginning, what would you do differently, knowing what you now know, do you think? That's a very big one.
Yes, so when I opened my clinic, I wanted it to be fully functional. I wanted to have, my background is lasers, so I wanted to have all of the laser equipment that I knew my patients would be able to benefit from, and also I would be able to use. And what I did was I bought the equipment outright. And of course I had predictions of of future sales, and I felt that that would be, great. But if anything had gone wrong, I probably had made a huge issue with my business in the sense of creating a risk. So if I were to do it again now, I'd still use the same devices, but I probably would lease some of them and retain some of that cash.
Yes.
So fortunately it didn't, but it could have. So,
absolutely.
And I guess my drive for that was I didn't want to owe any money.
Which I get, but it is far more tax efficient to lease it than it is to buy it outright. Because imagine if you fall over tomorrow, which does happen, people break things and land on wine glasses and stuff. For those that saw that on Facebook, somebody really hurt their injecting hand, having broken their leg the week before. Right, so these things happen, it can change like that. If you've suddenly then got no cash in the bank because you spent it all because you don't want debt, which I get, but suddenly then you've still got bills to pay, you've still got a clinic to run, you've still got to live. If there's no cash in the bank, that's when you hear businesses go under. So just look at that. And because it is a big risk, should anything happen to your health and you not be able to bring in the money. So thank you for sharing. So Ian, what behaviours and disciplines do you need to embrace in order to build a profitable and sustainable business, do you think?
Well, I mean, I'm case point really, because I think what certainly working with Pam over the last few years is actually trying to be more disciplined in time management. I think that's key, isn't it? Because there's only so many hours in a day, and I think I come away from meetings and business planning things where I think I've got to do X, Y, and Z, but then don't have a plan of when you're going to do X, Y, and Z. So I think it's building the discipline and building a plan around your working life and how that interacts with your personal life, and building all of those instruments in. And I think I'm continually having discussions around what I'm doing. Should I be doing it in X clinic? Should I be offering this treatment? And looking at the value of everything. That's key, because actually sometimes you just do it because it's there, it's in the diary, you've got to do it, and there's no time then freed up to do the things to develop the business and to look at the business. So I think I come from a general practice background, and as in that partnership, we were incredibly well run by a practice manager who was a partner who has ownership in our partnership. That was the biggest thing that ever improved us, and we're now in the top 5% UK GP partnership earnings. And it comes down to organisation. We have the same number of patients in an NHS practice, no different in a private practice, but we make time within a calendar to do the work that needs to be done to run the business. Everything gets micromanaged and analysed, every patient contact. And so I've taken I made the big mistake of actually going from, I'm still in the NHS practice, looking at the NHS practice, but not actually taking the messages from the NHS practice into my private practice until the last few years. And it comes down to a really efficient team, a really efficient time management, and a shared ownership and a delegation as well. I was the worst person in the private practice. In my NHS practice, we delegate all of these tasks, they're done by other people. In the private practice, I found it difficult, I still do, to let go of those tasks. And I think that's the biggest thing. You've got to let go. You've got to get good people in. And it's like, invest in your staff and your structure, more than investing, or equally investing in that, as well as your own professional development. And I just thought, professional development, become the best, top of the pile. I've done that, been there, but that doesn't mean you have any patience.
Yeah, absolutely. So
to add to that, because a lot of that resonated with myself and Jane. When I met Pam, I was running around like a headless chicken. I'd been in the industry for a few years. I'd worked hard to build my reputation. I had the patients. I was running around in a few different clinics at the time, building other people's businesses. And all of a sudden, we managed to get the perfect location for our clinic. And it went from me being a sole practitioner to having this building. I was in a fortunate position that when we did get to that, I had enough income that if it stayed as just me in the clinic, we still would have done well. But we had space, we wanted to expand, and actually we wanted to move the business away from me being the sole provider. So I think one thing Pam really helped us with was to teach me how to take control of my own time again, shall we say, and delegate and really utilise the assets I've got. My husband, who's my business partner, my fantastic staff as well.
Yeah. Absolutely.
and focus on my business rather than building others.
Yeah. So look, in the early days, it served you well, you know? Sometimes it's a means to an end. When you're starting out, you've got to get experience, you've got to get out there, you've got to build a reputation. But there comes a time, if you're running around building other people's businesses and not spending time on your own, and like you say, you were run ragged.
Yeah.
And within literally, as soon as we helped you make some better decisions, freed up some time, it was literally like you could just see the stress disappearing, you know, overnight. You know what I mean? And there's a big, good saying that, you know, just because you can doesn't mean you should. You know, in the beginning when you get asked to do these things, it's really lovely for complimentary, it's great for the ego, you know, all that kind of stuff. But actually, as you get busier, you've got to focus on building your own business. So it kind of comes at that tipping point. You'll know when that is for you. But it is, if you want to build your business and it not be a hobby, then you've got to put that time and effort, like Ian said, like Shirin said, to work on it, not just in it. And actually segregate the time. Some people do it hour in the morning, just block out some time. I'm going to get one thing done today before I see any patients. Or for some people, it's half day a week, a day a month, a week a quarter, but they're working on their business as well as in it. So there was lots of key messages that came out there. I hope you all took a lot of those on board. So let's have a look. Jane, oh, this is a good one. Where do you see the biggest challenges will be in the next 12 to 18 months for aesthetic practitioners, clinic owners?
I guess we're all in the same boat where it comes to Brexit and regulations, so we can't really change that. We've got to just wait to see how that goes. I think that the challenges are coming from that, so the price wars that we see that are going on at the moment, people dropping prices, and of course people who are doing treatments that possibly shouldn't be. Patients' education, I think, is very key to this. So we are governed by social media, we need it, but we also know that our patients are actually getting messages that may set their expectations in a different way. And so that's a challenge I see, because we've got to educate them before they come in, when they're in, and then of course ongoing as well, so that everybody is happy.
Absolutely, and education is a big part of all of your marketing that you do. You're very visible on your marketing, you're educating, it's not just selling, it's showcasing, you know, the results, the treatments that you do. I mean, Ian has spent an absolute fortune, it is fair to say, on video marketing through the lovely Carl here, but filming treatments, really educating his patients and showing people what to expect, you know, and that's really paid dividends, you know, in terms of getting you out there. But all of it guys, it's a lot. Social media is the big one. You know, there's lots of people. Let's hope that none of you are showing images of botched procedures, and we get why we do that, but please don't do that, because consumers will put two and two together and think that you've done it, you know. So yeah, we need to educate, but let's do it in a nice positive way, I think. Yeah, brilliant. So let's have a quick look. So Ian, this is a big one, I think, for all of you actually. Looking back over your sort of most significant losses, poor decisions, biggest mistakes, what are the 3 important lessons you've learned, you think?
Okay, I think number one, I've always had shiny toy syndrome. And you know, I've probably spent more than I've ever had on cars and different things. I always like to have those sort of things. And I think for many years, I was very successful running, just alongside a busy full-time general practice, a very, very busy aesthetic practice from my own home, and on my days off going to aesthetic or beauty salons and stuff, and running an injectable business effectively, very, very, very effectively and very profitable. Okay, and then I went into a business arrangement with another highly regarded practitioner, okay, and again it was a battle of egos, I think, but without any business model, wanting just to have a super duper clinic in the southwest in a beautiful area, spent $250,000 on the clinic between us, okay, on the building, and then started to put in equipment into it with no business plan, no marketing plan, okay. We made no money for 2 years, and then I left because we were falling out big time. Made zero money. Now that clinic actually won the Aesthetic Clinic of the Year award for 2 years running for those 2 years, which just shows that, you know, what you can have on show doesn't necessarily correlate to what the business is about. And I went in making those assumptions that if you did all that, you're going to be top of the game, your people are going to be flooding in, you know, and it doesn't happen. And equally, I got lured in by, because of where I was pitching myself, by industry manufacturers of machines, and basically bought myself into some dud machines, really. But not only dud machines, but actually machines that I was promoting that I was actually questioning were working in the first place. You know, and so that, you know, and so that was the big assumption as well. People will come and stroke your back and make you feel really good about things, but you know, their ultimate goal is to sell machines. So I think machines was my biggest, and I'm still, you know, I left that business 2-3 years ago, rebranded, and I had to take machines with me on leases, you know, which is a massive great burden. So I, you know, sort of £2,000-3,000 a month just on machines that weren't being used, and I didn't then have the facility, because I'd left a clinic, to be able to put those lasers and those machines to work. And now I have got that facility. They're out of date because they're 3 or 4 years later. They're not the best machines anymore. You know, so I think machinery is the biggest mistake. You know, and I think that was my mistake. If I'd have stayed just with my bag of injectables and keeping it simple, I would be much more wealthier than I am now.
Yeah.
So I think going into the clinic scenario and wanting the big clinic and look at me, look who I am, that does not give you success at all. It costs you money, and you know, and I think I've had to rebuild from that, and it's slowly but surely. So the lessons learned is, don't make assumptions that machines are going to make you money. Don't make assumptions that, you know, because if you go and learn to, you know, get in Tatler and all this sort of stuff, you're going to make lots of money, and you know, that doesn't work as well. And you know, work from the bottom up. You know, work hard, build your business, and I think it comes down to. And the other assumption was, you know, my clients will always be there. Okay, and even with the greatest loyalty, because you give them the best service ever, they are still fickle and they still move around, and you can't offer them the appointment when they want the appointment. You know, so again, I spread myself too thinly in different towns, and therefore I wasn't available, and it's just pure necessity. People said, well, you know, I can't wait 3 weeks to see you on a Thursday, I can only have a Wednesday off, you know. So again, think of where you're going to offer that service from, and I think sometimes to be in 1 or 2 bases offering a really high quality service, following up your patients, rather than being here, there and everywhere, that was the other mistake I made.
That's huge, thank you. Ian shared a lot there with you, but a big one, you know, if anybody is mobile at the moment and things are small and you've just got the dreams of the big clinic and the staff and the machines and the overheads, you know, suddenly then the grass is always greener, not necessarily, but when you've got that, the dreams of being back nice and small suddenly quite appealing. So I would just, as Ian said, take it nice and gradually, get really great at the treatments that you do with your hands. Don't invest too early on machinery, you know, get really great with the injectables, the skincare, all the fundamental things, and then start looking at building it based on what your patients are asking for rather than what you think they want. Ask them, do some research first. So keep an eye on the time, how we're doing. We've got 15 minutes still, so we've still got a lot to get through. So is everyone finding this useful? You're all very quiet today. So yeah, and any questions? So Constance, hiya.
This is the most authentic reporting that I have seen in 31 years in aesthetic practice. And in fact, I did research for PricewaterhouseCoopers, and I did research with the Independent Doctors Federation because I'm an analyst and a nurse.
Yes.
And what you said, all of you, fits with the research and the evidence base. And I pick you out now as the 3 credible reporters because of the authenticity of the fact that you have been so true to form about what you're saying goes on in the trenches. What you said about the machines, Ian, is absolutely true. And there are examples up and down Harley Street, for example, and in New York, where there are back rooms full of machines, not making money, and the doctors killing themselves with thumb injuries from trying to inject, pay bills, and the staff and everything else. And what Jane said about leasing, that is a nugget of experienced intellectual property, which actually, Pam, you know, people will pay you to find out, and it's money well spent. and a bag.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and be human with it. Yeah, go on, Shirin.
I have to say as well, I've been quite successful with machines, but I didn't jump into them straight away.
Yeah.
When I first started, it was just me doing some injectables. I built up a small practice with that. I invested very shrewdly in machines that helped me build my practice. And I waited until the time was right to invest in the right machines.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, I don't have a lot of capital tied up in machines that aren't being used. And I just made sure the demand was there before I purchased.
Absolutely, big one. You've got to do the research, ask your patient base, make sure the demand's there. Because look, we've all got gym equipment, haven't we, right? I'm the worst one for this, yeah. Sat there as a clothes horse, gathering dust. Don't I, Adam? Yes. But your equipment is an asset, yeah? It should be generating sales. It should be then turning those sales into profits, into cash flow that you can then do what with? Reinvest in more equipment, pay off debt, or take a holiday, look after yourself a bit, have some dividends. Yeah, but your assets, whether it's your equipment, your team, your hands, your database, should be making you money. And if it's not, and it's just sat there, you've wasted money. So I would take a leaf out of all of your books and get great at the fundamentals.
On the equipment thing, I mean, I would never buy a nice car and not take it for a serious test drive, if you're going to spend a lot of money on a car.
Yeah.
And do your reviews on that. Is that, an industry where I have had some good machines, they've been very willing to say, you have that machine in your practice at no cost for a month, 2 months, get as many patients in and see what the demand is, what the feedback is for that machine. And if they won't let you do that with the machine, then walk away, don't buy it.
Yeah, definitely. But there's a whole launch plan to follow. It's not just, this is a sexy new machine, I'm going to buy it. There's actually, let's do some research. Ask your clients, just send out a quick email, pick up the phone. What's the 2 biggest questions you've got about skin tightening? Great. Anyone that replies, you then base that on your FAQs. You do little videos about it. They're putting their hand up, they're signalling to say potentially they're interested in skin tightening, right? Then you can do your marketing based on them. They're one of the VIPs that gets invited to your launch event, but you've already asked the question first. You haven't just launched straight in, da-da, we've got this new machine and start selling it.
Plan that, because we had it with a machine that we just acquired, which is actually doing really, really well, thermomechanical ablation, and they lent us the machine for a good couple of months. We had it in the clinic, and so all of the staff got free treatment. Their relatives, some of our favourite patients all got free treatment, because at the end of the day we weren't paying, why should we charge? We were testing the machine. So we treated a lot of people very quickly with that machine, and then the staff are full on it, the 2 that work for them, because they know the treatment. And then basically, it then builds. So then we bought the machine, we'd already made a demand in the clinic.
Yeah,
so that's
brilliant.
When we got the machine, we were really fired up at people who were waiting to have the treatment.
And if it's your friends, family, people doing it, this is your model marketing day. This is you getting some before and afters, some video testimonials, filming the procedure being done. You're already getting your digital assets to start promoting it properly to the public. Walking, talking adverts.
So that's always a great way, isn't it? But when you do buy a machine, say that you've been sucked in by the manufacturers, often there's a huge learning curve for you to get those results as well. So you may have all singing and all dancing, but is it working for you because you don't have that experience?
Yeah.
So it takes time, doesn't it, to understand what you can get from the machine.
Absolutely.
The other thing from a business perspective was that I initially bought machines that made me look good, i.e. they were machines that I had to operate. And then when I came down with Pam, working with Pam, we started to work on price per point of all my treatments, and actually, why am I spending an hour doing this treatment? Because it's not profitable from my time point. Even though I've got a state-of-the-art £100,000 laser, what's the point of that?
Yeah.
So for me now, any tool, machine comes into the practice, either it's got to save me time,
yeah,
or it has to be done by somebody else. So it's a treatment that can be done by one of my therapists or one of my other team members, or even another doctor or somebody that you employ. And that's the other model out there, is that we've all grown, or a lot of us have grown in an industry where we are the expert, we're going to be the one running the care. There's a whole army of people. One of my colleagues, he's very successful. He said, right, do you know what? I'm the best at doing all this stuff, but I can't do all this stuff. And I want to retire, and I want to gradually do less. I want to spend time with my grandchildren. And he basically said, right, I know lots of GP colleagues out there, they're all a bit pissed off. They don't want to give up GP, and they don't want to, basically do what I do and have to invest all that time and money in becoming an aesthetic doctor. But they're quite happy to learn some skills, like vaginal rejuvenation, or like doing mole surgery, or bioidentical hormones. So he's trained up a whole army, and now he's got 8 doctors working for him on a sessional basis, and they come in for a day or half a day a week. You can do it that way as well. So that's the other way of delegating, and we're building a team of people, not relying on just you.
Yeah, getting over your ego a little bit, isn't it? Because we all want to be the best at what we do. We want to be the face of it.
Yeah, and you've got to do that in the beginning, because you've got to get known, you've got to get out there. So don't hide. For those that don't want to be the face, for those that I know you're out there as well, you want to kind of, you've got to get out there, and that's what you guys have been really great at doing. But there comes the point that if you do want to build a business that can work independently of you, you have to get a great team around you. You've spent ages building a great team around you, all of you have, and it is, now it's starting to pay dividends, because it's not reliant on you. Yeah. You've taken a busy Saturday morning to come here today, because they've got their teams. Yes. So, did you want to add anything to that, Jane? No? So I'll ask you a question. So success isn't achieved overnight, but what things can we all start doing immediately to make 2019 our best year ever?
Okay. So what I've learned over the last year is not to abdicate any of my finances, to dig down, understand it. I have an accountant that does all of that, because that's not my job, but I understand it. We actually had an exercise which we do all the time. We look at how much a service costs us, so a bit like Constance said, lighting, room, rents, rates, staff's time, and also sundries, disposables that you might be using. If that service isn't profitable, and everybody has to set that level of profitability, don't be frightened to drop it.
Absolutely.
So that's what we do all the time, even down to products that we have on the shelf.
Yeah, so a big thing that we all work on in the beginning with any client, including these 3 lovely people, is just looking at all the, what's it costing you to run the business? I know we flicked through that super quick earlier, right? But you've got to know, what's it costing you to open your doors? Your team need to know that as well. You need to know each treatment, what it costs you to deliver. And if you can make some savings and start looking at all your expenses, your outgoings, even consumables, and saving some, few pounds here, putting up your prices there, stopping discounting here, adding value instead. But the cumulative effect, the knock-on effect of those small tweaks does add up to a big long-term increase in profitability. Just having the visibility now, if you think when we first met Jane, just now really understanding the lifeblood of your business, which is the finances, clinical skills aside, you've got to understand what's going on, because if you don't, no one else will care as much as you. And there are accountants, I've heard horror stories out there of accountants not caring, one's in prison, one's done this, one's done that. I hear stuff all the time. No one will care about it as much as you. You've got to get to grips with it, and that's part of what we teach. I will come to your question in a sec. Ian, yeah.
What I was just going to add, the other thing is having systems, and one of the things it's great to think, how do we measure it? For me, it was like, how do I know? How do we measure that and stuff? And there are really good systems and software and all sorts of things you can buy into to measure your clinic. And Paboo, we're just working with Paboo, and that's starting to help us. I think I've spoken with Fiona McKeaton from Consulting. That's got to be one of the most successful clinic chains in the last few years. That's now got an £8 million turnover in 3 years. That is phenomenal. She's built that on social marketing, basically, and Instagram alone. But she knows, she's got a software program, she wouldn't tell me who did it for her, but she's had somebody develop software. She knows the revenue from every single Instagram post that she makes.
Brilliant.
To exactly the number of patients and the exact amount of income.
That's
and
really,
it is fascinating. If you ever get a chance to listen to her talk, listen to her, because Nikita, she runs
Consultant
the consultant clinic. If you want advice, follow them, because you'll see the quality of their posts. And you know, on average, each one of her Instagram posts brings in between 20 and 60,000 pounds of income.
Wow.
Some of them are over 100,000 pounds of income per post, and she does 3 posts a day.
Wow. Now that won't happen overnight. If you look at their Instagram feed, right, there's no magic pill. I will come to questions in 2 seconds.
The consultant clinic.
The consultant clinic on Instagram. Look at the brand consistency.
One clinic in Manchester, and 3 years later they've now got clinics in Beverly Hills, New York, Dubai, Ireland, all over the place.
Yeah.
You know, a very, very, very successful one, but driven from the ground up, all the messages that Pam said, to build that clinic.
Yeah, and very consistent marketing. So this lovely lady here had a question.
It was just going back to...
Oh, can you shut the door? Sorry.
One of the slides you said, how often do you increase your prices? It's just price pointing of treatments. With my clinic, we are tending to put the prices up yearly, purely because obviously increased costs with the products, etc. From your experience, would you do it yearly? And how do you actually justify that to your clients? Because a lot of clients say, oh, well, 3 years ago I was paying this, now I'm paying that. And they're often tackling the practice manager at the desk. So just a little bit of advice around that.
I think I put my prices up recently, the cost of toxin went up, so my profitability went down, and I thought, well, to keep going, I need to put prices up. I'm not scared of being the most expensive in my area either. The clientele I want to attract aren't price sensitive. So from that point of view, I don't worry. Yes, you'll lose a couple who will go with the price, but they're not the clients you wanted anyway.
Yeah.
I think medicine, I know, are priced up annually by a fixed percentage, and if your patients get used to that's going to happen. It's not going to be such a sticking point. When I put my Botox prices up, we sent out a newsletter saying, due to the increased costs, our prices are going to rise by a small amount. If you have any questions, ask, not one person asked, not one person decided when they got the increased price.
Yeah, look, it's a big fear, but I meet people that haven't put their prices up for 10, 15 years, and I make them. You know, but there's a way of communicating it. We are running out of time, unfortunately, because I know another lady had a question. But add value instead. Say thank you with a skincare product. Give them a hydrofacial. Don't give them a discount. You know, these are medical treatments, yeah? So we've learned an awful lot from our panel. Haven't they been fabulous? Thank you. Thank you.